Good evening, everyone, and welcome to another live show here on YouTube for the Card Fellas. It's 10:30 Central Time, 11:30 Eastern Time, 8:30 Pacific Time. No matter what time you're listening to us, we are live here on YouTube for our podcasters who listen to us on that platform every Wednesday night. We're going to try and be live here. Chris, it's kind of the dead zone for sports right now. We just crowned a Stanley Cup champion. We're really down to baseball right now. So not much going on in the world of sports, but, we always got sports cards to talk about.
Yeah, basically 60 days between now and when the NFL starts their regular season. And then, of course, once that gets going, you'll start seeing hockey and basketball get going in October. But we are kind of in this spot where if you're a sports anchor or somebody who talks sports, it's baseball and maybe, I don't know, I guess if you're into soccer and that kind of stuff, I'm not. But if that's your thing, then there you go. But we're going to continue to kind of go on our little progression here where we go between basketball, football, baseball. We'll throw in some hockey once in a while, but I think we talked hockey a few weeks ago. So we're chatting a little basketball today, and we're talking about what I think is an incredibly underrated basketball card set, and that is the 1984-85 Star basketball card set. And this is a set that, when people start talking about Michael Jordan rookies, nobody ever really talks about this set. They always want to talk about the 86 Fleer set, but it's funny, you flip that 86 Fleer Michael Jordan rookie over to the backside, and you'll see lots of stats there because they actually printed that rookie card several years after his career had started. And that's the same with the Barkley and the Olajuwon and all that stuff. But this was actually a set that was printed the year after he came into the league. So at that time, that was kind of thought of as a rookie card. It was a weird time because Topps had gotten out of the basketball business. Fleer hadn't come back into it. So you got this company Star that kind of filled the gap, came out of nowhere seemingly, and started making some basketball cards. And I think they actually look pretty cool.
I think these cards are the creme de la creme, if you will. I love Star cards, and you know that, Chris. I've had that conversation with you, and I think I've mentioned it on this podcast many times. I think Star is the perfect card. It's simple. The action shot on the front is fantastic. Usually, I just like the simplicity of it. I love the rarity, like you said. These cards are very underrated, and at the time, nobody was really paying attention to these cards because it was kind of that dead era for basketball as far as collecting in the hobby because Topps wasn't around, as you mentioned. Fleer hadn't come around yet. So the Star Company decided, hey, let's throw some cards out there. And how they distributed it was interesting as well. There was 288 cards in this set, but they didn't sell it as a set. They didn't sell it as wax. They didn't, do the normal distribution of these cards. What they did was they kind of put it in the the poly bags, I guess you'd call them, as team sets, and they would kind of send them out regionally to areas that where those teams were, and not really sure how they reached the masses. But that's kind of how it went. But looking at these cards, again, the simplicity is what makes these cards, to me, just brilliant. The colors matched the team, for one. So the borders matched the team. You had the logo of the team. You had the action shot of the player. You didn't have the logos of the team like blurred out or taken out. So everything just screamed, basketball and the logos of that era. You have the clear name, you have the clear team, you have the position that they played, and then the logo of the brand Star was quietly up in the corner. So to me, I think this is a brilliant design, and whenever I see them at a show or in a shop, I stop and I consider buying them. But like you said, there's some scarcity to these, so the prices are pretty high on these cards.
Yeah, the cards aren't inexpensive, and I wasn't around back then as far as like actively going out and pursuing sports cards, but from what I've heard, basically what they did with a lot of these is there was an opportunity for you if you were, say you're going to go to Chicago Stadium, an opportunity for you to buy these cards, through kind of the team type of thing is kind of what they did with them.
Okay.
But, you talk about being at kind of a dark era for basketball cards, but it was an incredible era for basketball itself. I mean, this rookie class is pretty amazing. You've got Jordan, you got Akeem Olajuwon, you got Barkley, you got Stockton, but this was that Celtics-Lakers rivalry. The 76ers snuck in and won a championship with Dr. J, but you had Magic and Kareem, and you had Bird and Robert Parrish and Kevin McHale and that squad. And then, a few more years later, you had the Bad Boy Pistons were kind of getting put together right at this time. So it was a weird time for cards in that there wasn't a lot of availability if you were a basketball collector, but if you were a basketball fan, I mean, this was really, pretty amazing. And we got Jordan up here, but he, played collegiately with James Worthy. That was on the Showtime Lakers too. So just a lot of cool stuff going on in basketball at the time, and there was just not much around to document as far as card-wise, other than this funky star set.
Right. And the backs of the cards too matched the color of the front. So the Bulls one is pink, so it's a little bit, it's not quite matte, but it's the variation of red. And so some of the other ones, like Larry Bird, would be a lighter shade of green. So you start thinking about how these were designed. These are great designs. Again, I can't speak to how great these cards looked. And as you mentioned, Chris, it was such a great time for the NBA because you had these young up-and-coming stars, Michael Jordan, Akeem Olajuwon. You really have a rookie card of John Stockton, which was interesting because he didn't have a rookie card till 88. And so he skipped a couple years in Fleer. And then you had Charles Barkley. Again, these are the RCs, right, that they're calling them. And then you had just a bevy of those Hall of Famers. You had Larry Bird cards. You had multiple Larry Bird cards, multiple Kareem cards. You had a Magic card. You had a couple Dr. J's, a couple Isaiah Thomases, as you mentioned. So just really an interesting set. And then, as you mentioned, how you got these cards. Because I don't remember seeing these cards anywhere when I was growing up. Now, I wasn't a big basketball collector. I do remember having some 86 Fleer just because, I got talked into it by my cousin to buy some 86 Fleer. And I wish he would have talked me into buying more. I know, seriously. Come on. And then respect basketball cards the same way I respected my baseball cards because I didn't respect basketball. I wasn't a basketball fan in the early mid 80s. Later, I became more of a basketball fan, but I was really into baseball, and so I protected my baseball cards. But I don't remember seeing these cards out there, and that's the thing that I think makes these so intriguing, again, is that old supply and demand is really in play with this. And you and I were talking about this set before we came on live here, and we really have no idea how many of these cards are out there. And it's kind of that great unknown because Star Company, I mean, it's not around anymore. It was short-lived. It kind of fizzled out. And, I think, obviously the bigger card companies, they kind of, exploded onto the scene. And, we had the junk wax era coming after this. But, the supply and demand is what makes this interesting. And, we did research on this. You did some research as well, obviously. And we can I think pretty, certainly say that there's between 3,000 and 8,000 of these sets. That's kind of, I know that's kind of a broad number, but even if there's 8,000, that's a low pop and, a true short print. But, you did some research, Chris, too, and you found some other interesting facts and figures about this set. And I'd like for you to share those findings now.
Yeah, some of the stuff that I saw, they were kind of throwing the 5,000 number around, but they said there were a couple sets, and I think it ended up being the green sets, so the Celtics and the Mavericks, that they believed were actually less than that, far less than that, because of the coloration it wasn't coming out right in the printing press. And they said about 25% of the cards that they produced in those sets were actually distributed because they just didn't look good. So it's possible that the Celtics set, that Larry Bird card, and you've got the McHale and the Robert Parrish in there too. I think Danny Ainge is in there.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
That there's about 1,200 of those cards out there, and we'll get into kind of some BGS pop stuff later, and that kind of backs that up, I would say. So
it does, for sure.
If you're looking for a rare basketball card of some of the all-timers, this is the place to get it, because we can look at the Bird rookies and the Magic rookies, and you pull up the pop reports, and there's tens of thousands of them on the pop report. So it's like, well, how many are actually out in the wild? Much more than that. But the pop reports you're going to see here are going to be really low. The other thing that's going to be interesting when we get into this, and this show, we always talk about PSA pop reports, but that you discovered is that PSA doesn't handle these cards. So
no, they don't.
And there's one of the I think parts of these cards that has turned people off in the past is that there is really some rampant counterfeiting of these cards, and I think that's something that has kind of put a sour taste in the mouths of a lot of people when they come to collect these things. And I just, to me, I think it makes a lot of sense that you have companies that grade these cards that can at least look at them and give you a really good shot at getting an authentic one, because I know there's a lot of fakes out there.
Yeah, and that is the thing that I think is probably the most frightening for people when they're buying these cards is, am I getting an authentic card if it's not graded? Because there are a lot of raw cards of star cards out there, and that's one of my biggest fears is spending the money, because it does cost a lot of money to get these cards. And so if you get caught with a fugazi, you're in some trouble. So you end up holding a worthless card. But I want to take a step back here, and I don't think we mentioned this, but the Star Company started creating cards the year prior.
Correct.
So 83, 84 was the first year that they started making these, but the 84, 85 was obviously the most prominent because of Jordan and Olajuwon and Barkley. But that was when they really got started in this. And you did mention the Larry Bird and the Kevin McHale and the green border cards. In looking at it, and I will give you I will, spoiler alert, yes, those pop reports are much lower as far as numbers of cards graded. So that tells me you're spot on. Those cards are much harder to find than some of the other cards. Some of the things that were mentioned about these cards, and I've noticed this myself, is the centering on these cards were atrocious. So finding cards that had great centering on these were really, really difficult to find. And the other thing is those polybags were not great at protecting the tops and bottoms. So, I mean, that's not uncommon. I mean, think about the new way cards are packaged, whether it be in the cellophane, whether it be packs. I mean, you are opening packs in 2022 where the tops and bottoms are a little bit more handled, if you will, than the ones in the middle. So, those are going to be hard to find too. And you did mention, and I do want to spend some time on this, PSA, SGC, the other card companies will not authenticate these. And one of the reasons that I read, and this is a downside to me because PSA clearly is the leader when it comes to this. Now, they were printing, Star Company, I think, was from what I gather, and it's kind of like the Wild West when they were printing these cards, and they were kind of printing these kind of unauthorized. I don't know, I mean, I don't know how they were printing them, where they were printing them, but it sounds like there was some really kind of odd ways of doing business. And so I think PSA and SGC just kind of said, we don't even want to mess with this because, we don't even know how they were being printed to begin with by Star Company. And then second of all, just the consistency, about how Star Company was printing these. And then the second, as you mentioned, was the counterfeit. And so the counterfeiting is really rampant with these cards, and apparently you can pick out some of the flaws or the mistakes that people who are trying to counterfeit these make. The card stock is really kind of flimsy on these star cards, the original ones. So if the card stock feels a little thicker or fuller, that's probably a counterfeit. Also, there was no gloss on these original star cards. So if there's gloss, you probably have a fake. And the other one is the pictures. If they're kind of blurry, that might be a counterfeit as well. So some things to look out for. But again, that's what the trained eyes are for. And I just think Beckett looked at this as an opportunity and said, yeah, we'll authenticate it. We're trying to be the authenticators of all things sports and sports memorabilia. So they took these on. And so really an interesting discovery when you look at some of the pop reports. But we kind of shuffled through some of those cards pictures. But let's talk again, Chris, through some of those notable cards that were in this set and show those pictures. So if you're listening to us on the podcast, Chris and I will do our best to describe what you're looking at. Chris, I'll let you take this first one. This is card 101.
Yeah, so the Jordan card, and Michael's rising above and looks to be pulling down a rebound, or maybe going up. Maybe he's posting up. He's down low on the block there. And the thing that I like about this is the script Chicago jersey. And then the
absolutely.
This is the same jersey that my high school had. We had the shorts and everything, like with that kind of like white patch right there on the side. I mean, I remember putting these on for the first time and feeling like I was playing for the Bulls.
You were MJ.
Yeah, and they were short too. They were short.
Yes, they were. Yeah, that's what people don't understand is the long shorts didn't come along till the Fab Five from Michigan. Right. Everybody had the shorty shorts.
I was playing high school basketball in 1992, well after that long short era had begun, but we were still wearing the short shorts. So
that's a good point. Yeah, no, that's about.
And we lost Matt Military.
But our athletic departments couldn't. We're back. Yeah, we had the Wheel of Death if you're watching to us on YouTube. But we're back. So yeah, this was the base card of the Jordan, and this one is the one that's in the most high demand. Yep. It's the card that's been graded the most. We'll get in the pop report, and we showed you the back again. Had that pink hue to it, but that was another brilliant part of this set. It matched the front. The colors matched the front. Very simple design on the back.
Right. I'm getting a little bit into the values on this. That card of BGS 8 just sold, I believe, either tonight or the night before for $22,000.
22,000 people.
Right, for a BGS 8. And again, like what you were talking about earlier, there's a reason, and there's just not a lot of, like, you're not going to go find a bunch of 10s of these cards. I know a 9 sold last May for $130,000 at Golden. But a BGS 6.5 just sold for $13,000 in the last few weeks. Raw authentic cards of this one are selling for about $4,000. Tons of reprints out there. Even the reprints are selling for like anywhere from $50 to $100 for those.
Yes, they are. And I will say one more thing about that base card: a BGS 8 of Michael Jordan Fleer. The rookie 86 sold for about $8,000 recently. So you're looking at about 3 times the price of what his Fleer in BGS 8, mind you. But it just shows you, again, the value of these cards. Tremendous. This is card number 2 of Michael. He has 3 in the set. This is card number 195. And this is him in a Team USA Olympic jersey. Just a sweet card.
Right.
Seeing him in that. Unfortunately, a guy's arm is covering up the S and kind of the A, but you can definitely tell it's not a Bulls jersey. But and this card too, not quite the same demand as far as cost as the base card, but still, this fetches a pretty good price as well.
Yeah, really cool card. BGS 8 just sold for $8,000, 7 for about $1,500. These, again, raw authentic, are selling for around $600. So pretty highly in demand card, and I would imagine that, if we were looking at these values a year ago, it would have been a lot higher.
Oh my goodness, absolutely. Yeah,
super cool card. You gotta love the Olympic cards.
Yeah, absolutely. And then the third card of the set. So they put 3 Michael Jordan cards in this 288 card set, and this one was him getting the Rookie of the Year honor. And they went with the blue border for the awards cards. I think there's about 6 or 7 awards cards at the end of the set. And this one, a little clashing going on here with the red Bulls jersey, but again, great look. I like the red border better than I like the blue border with the Michael Jordan rookie card, but still a cool card. Probably, I would say if you were to rank the 3, this is probably the 3rd best card of his in this set.
And this one, again, you're right on with the values as well. Each is sold for $4,500. Other ones, you get down into a 7, the prices are kind of all over the place.
Yes.
On, kind of what the subgrades are and where things are at. But, you could definitely get one for around $1,000, just depending on what you're looking for. But $8,000 or $4,500 for BGS 8 on the Rookie of the Year card. And like you said, I think with the blue border, it definitely doesn't have the eye appeal that the other cards do.
No, and you had the NBA logo instead of the Bulls logo too in that one. The national treasure of America right now is Charles Barkley. He seems to be everywhere, and everyone loves him. And here's one of his rookie cards, pre-Fleer rookie card, and this is card number 208. Again, just an awesome looking card. I wish Star was still around. They nailed it. I just love the look of these cards.
Yeah, good looking card. A 9 recently sold to this one for $1,600. You can get 8.5 for about $800, and the nice raw copies of these $200-$300 of this card. So,
yeah, he's going up for a shot. Guy looking up underneath him, and this great classic Sixers logo right there. Just.
And kind of a svelte Chucky there as well. He's got some stories of when he came into camp as a rookie, and he was, he's a big man, and he's been a big man, and he kind of ended up. Moses Malone really took him under his wing and said, "Listen, man, you got to trim down a little bit here if you want to be the player you want to be." And he took Moses' advice, move forward, and drop some weight. Always was a little bit of a heavier dude. They always called him the round mound of rebound. But a lot of attitude, just a cool dude. Didn't want to be anyone's hero. So
he did not, but now everybody loves him.
Right. Well, I think he speaks truth.
He does. He does not hold back. That's for sure. And then before he added the H to his first name, Akeem Olajuwon, the number 1 overall pick in that draft that Jordan was in. Great looking card with the yellow border, kind of a goldish yellow with the match the Rockets color. And again, pretty flawless looking card. You and I, Chris, have talked a lot about cards and colors, and kind of how they look, and some of the contrasting colors and some of the neon colors. And this card is just one of those cards that's just looks great with that yellow.
Yeah, everything's matching up. And it's funny, we did a show not too long ago on the 1976 Topps football.
We did.
And I am currently going through a vintage collection to buy it, and there's a lot of 1976 Topps football in there. And it's kind of funny to see those neon colors and colors that just don't match up at all with the teams.
Right.
They did a good job with the color match here, and you have Olajuwon here that just kind of a god when it comes to basketball in Houston. Played his college ball there, ended up playing his pro ball there, and they don't make big men like that anymore.
No, they don't. And the Olajuwon card still, I mean, he has a pretty good following, and I know one of his cards, this card recently just sold in a Probstein auction as well. I think it was an 8.5 that sold for around $1,400.
Okay.
So there's some demand still for Akeem Olajuwon and everybody who followed him. And then the other card, as we mentioned, was the John Stockton. And the weird one about this is, Stockton in 84-85 got a card from Star, but he didn't get a rookie card until 88 in Fleer. So he got skipped over in 86, skipped over in 87, and then you got the rookie card finally in 88. But this card too, John Stockton, big time following for anybody who's a Utah fan. A BGS 9 sold for around $1,200, so a little bit less than those other 3 guys, but still, anytime you can get a BGS card for over $1,000 selling with your name on it, it's pretty significant. But so those are really kind of the significant rookies in the set. I mean, there are other ones as well, but as we mentioned at the top, just the bevy of Hall of Famers.
Yeah.
Right. Like Larry Bird had a couple cards in it. And we're going to go through those too, but just a great checklist. Even kind of the common guys, right? I mean, there's just guys that you remember and names that are so familiar, even if they weren't stars.
Yeah, so this Magic card, BGS 9 recently sold, and the Magic card for $660. If you want to kind of get a taste of what a star that wasn't a rookie would go for, you can get a BGS 7.5, recently sold for $180.
Mm-hmm.
And authentic, good-looking Raws go for about $100.
Yeah, anywhere between. I mean, it's kind of varies. Obviously, a BGS 9 and 9.5, and once we get into the pop report, you're going to start realizing, these cards are you're looking at the ceiling being about an 8.5 to a 9. I mean, these cards were not coming out. I mean, of course, Beckett doesn't give out 10s barely ever, and so their gem mint is 9.5, and they barely gave them out for these. So you just look at these cards again. We mentioned 2 Larry Bird cards, 2 Kareem cards, only 1 Magic card, 2 Dr. J cards, 2 Isaiah Thomas cards, and it's just, they just had a great roster of cards to go through. And you look at the sales prices. Again, we mentioned it. Michael Jordan base card, BGS 8, just sold for $22,000. So it just gives you an idea compared to the 86 Fleer. And when you look at the pop reports, and
let's do that.
I don't know if you're ready for that. I will dive into that. So that Michael Jordan number 101, that card has been graded 194 times by Beckett. So, or no, I'm sorry, 1,094, not 194. I'm sorry, 1,094. I'm not very good when it comes to numbers, and I got a whole bunch of them in front of me right now. 1,094 of that base card has been graded. So when you contrast that with the 1986 Fleer Michael Jordan rookie card, that thing has been graded 21,000 times. So it's just a fraction of that. So you're looking at this card and you're wondering, okay, why is this card in a BGS 8 selling for $22K when a BGS 8 of his rookie is selling for $7K? Well, there's your reason right there. It's scarcity. And so when you look at the 10s, 0. I'm not even going to mention the 10s for Beckett anymore because those don't exist for any of these cards. You have 3 9.5s, and that's their gem mint. So there's only 3 of these that they consider gem mints. And then in the 9s, there's 92 of those. So you're looking at, in a pop report, there's only under 100 under 9. Or nine or better. 8.5, there's 251. And that's, those cards, you said a 9, what was it? A 9 sold for over 100,000. Yeah. So you start realizing that this is really, really scarce. And then 8s, which are the $22,000 ones, there's 282 of those. And then you go down the line, 239 7.5s. And so that's the most graded card in the set, is that base card. And then it goes to that Team USA card, which we both really like. And that's not, they don't have 1,000 of those. There's only 931. And when you look at 9.5s being their gem mint, there's 0 of those. So your highest graded card of that Team USA is a 9, and there's only 2 of those. So now you get all the way to 8.5, and there's only 29 of those. So when you start looking, and then you go to 8s, and there's only 47 8s. So when you start looking at, $7,000 for an 8, there's fewer than 65, 70 of those cards that are higher. And these are not popping up. These are not going to keep popping up.
Yeah,
and so
we've got a closet full of them.
Nobody's pulling these out of their closet and getting them graded. So when you're talking about which one do you want? Do you want a Michael Jordan Star USA card, or do you want his 86 Fleer rookie card? You know, to me, if I had the money and it was apples to apples as far as what it costs, it's a no-brainer for me to have this Star card.
Yeah.
No-brainer. Like, it is. And the best thing about this is you could walk into any show. You could go to the National with one of these cards, and people are going to pay attention to you a hell of a lot more as if you walk in there with an 86 Fleer card. So that's kind of the and then you look at, okay, the last one is the Rookie of the Year one, 629 graded. And there's only 7 9s. And that's the highest grade that it gets. 38, 8.5, 65, 8. So you're talking about fewer than 100. And so now you start looking at these numbers and you go, oh my goodness. These are the cards you want if you're a Michael Jordan fan and if you're a Michael Jordan holder. I don't know why you would chase a 86 Fleer in a 6 or a 7 if I can get this card at the same price. Just kind of my thought on this.
Yeah, you're right on. And one of the things you talked about was you said there's 3 of the rookie card, 3 of those in a BGS 9.5. So 3 of them in a gem mint. And you talked about how many were graded of the 86 Fleer card. Well, there's 318 PSA 10 gem mint 86 Fleer Jordans compared to 3 gem mints in the 84 Star.
I do think the PSA versus BGS does hurt this card. If these cards were graded by PSA, I think the values would be ridiculously high. But I think the values are. I think this is where obviously Beckett outshines everybody because nobody else is grading these cards. So people are going to have to pay for the Beckett grading to get these cards.
Just for clarification, I live with a 14-year-old son. Whenever I say anything that is even remotely incorrect, he corrects me.
Yes,
I believe there is one other company that is grading. I think it's GAI. So for whatever that's worth, I don't think they're doing a lot of them, but there is one other card.
Okay,
or one other grading company that is doing these cards.
Okay,
but that is. That's what my son would say if he was in our conversation right now.
And it's good to know that. But I think what we usually talk about is the populace, and PSA is usually what we talk. But they're not doing these, and so this is the one place where Beckett, I think, probably gets the same value that a PSA would, just because they're the only game in town for this. And so when you look down the list, so those are the 3 Jordan cards. Actually, the Barkley card has been graded more than the Rookie of the Year card. That's been graded 688 times. There's 9 9.5s, 194 9s. So it's a little bit less rare than the Jordan cards. And then the Stockton card is number 4 with 589 grades, 39 9.5. So of all the 9.5s by far, so he must have been packed in the middle and pretty well protected.
I think kids in Utah just take better care of their stuff.
Yeah, that's right. Maybe that could be the case. They respected the wizard in Utah. And then the 5th best, most graded card is the Olajuwon, 490. Only 1 9.5, 34 9. So again, if you're an Olajuwon fan, these are the cards that you're chasing, not that 86 Fleer. And one thing I didn't make notes of, but I did check right before when you mentioned the Larry Bird and the green border dilemma, 196 of those cards, Larry Bird cards, have been graded. So when you look at that, I know it's not his rookie card, but Larry Bird's always in demand. And so 196 of his cards have been graded from this set. So that tells me that there's fewer cards likely out there in the wild. 0 10s, 0 9.5s, 16 9s, 28 8.5. So again, a rare card for Larry Bird. Not his rookie card, but just a rare low pop card for Larry Bird. And when we look at some of the other cards, again, when we're talking about buying opportunities, and I don't know if people are taking our advice and spending $8,000 on a card. But if you are, congratulations. But, again, that Barkley 86 Fleer card has been graded 8,000 times compared to 688 times. The Olajuwon 8,000 times. Stockton's 88 card 9,000 times. So, like, if you're looking for these cards and you're like, I want his rookie card, okay, I can respect that. And maybe that's more nostalgic for you. But if you're looking for investments and you're looking to possibly trade up, I think buying maybe a lower graded card of the star card over maybe the Fleer card might be a better play, just because you're just going to see fewer of them as time goes on. And like I said, when you show up to a card show with star cards, it gets attention. Right. I don't care who that player is. I always pay attention, and I think people are pricing it that way as well.
Yeah. I mean, as you and I, actually, it was kind of funny during the pandemic. We visited a lot of like living rooms of card collectors selling stuff on
yeah, we did
Craigslist, and it seemed like everyone we went into had some 86 Fleer stuff in there to show us. So it definitely is a cool design, and we don't want to like say that they're bad cards, because they're definitely not. But this is when we're talking rarity. And again, there's two things that drive prices. You have to have scarcity and you have to have demand. So there's not as much demand because I just don't think people talk about it as much. But, when you get in a room full of people who are really into this, I think they do they have curiosity for it and they want it. It doesn't, I don't think, have the mainstream appeal that the 86 Fleer set is, because when people talk about the Michael Jordan rookie in the mainstream media, you see that Fleer card all the time, and that's, I think, what people think of when they think of that card. But this is, I would say, more of a true rookie card than that card, just because it came out earlier. And like we said early in the show, you flip that 86 Fleer card over, and there's more than one or two lines in there for statistics for Jordan to be able to call that a rookie card. But it's definitely more rare, and it definitely has eye appeal, the things that you're looking for in a card. I like it, and
yeah,
I want one, but
I do too.
Currently putting water into my shampoo to make it last longer, so it's going to be a while before I get one.
I don't use shampoo. I will say this too. One more thing, and you brought this, you kind of alluded to this, and I think these type of cards have staying power. Even when this card collecting bubble, I don't want to say bursts, but it gets smaller, right? I mean, the number of people that are in the hobby, it's going to shrink. So I think the true hobbyists that are going to stick around and kind of weather whatever's next, and they really do this as a passion, I think these are the type of cards that they're going to look at and go, I don't have those, or I want those, or I want more of them because I know I can sell them, or I want to hold them because I know they're a good investment. I think these cards have more staying power, and just, again, they just have, I feel like they will have more value over time than some of those other cards that are looked at as the holy grails. And so, I'm a big time buyer. And, you and I have talked about this, Chris, I think on the shows. The best part of the National for us when we went last year in Chicago was just being able to sit down and thumb through a lot of these cards. Like, there was stacks and stacks. I sat through and was able to look through a bunch of star cards from various years. And I found just a bunch of great looking cards, good shape, great players. I mean, and I was paying anywhere between $5 and $15 depending on who was on it. Obviously, I didn't find any Jordans, but Magic, Bird, Dr. J, Isaiah, the guys we're talking about, and you just don't find those that often. So when you do, you grab a chair and thumb through those cards, because I think that's what grabs my attention. And they're just not available enough. And just talking about them now, the next time I go to the card show locally here, I mean, these are the cards I want to target. I want to go find these cards. And if you can find those polybags, that where they're still in there, and those are extremely rare because a lot of those people have been a lot of those have already been opened, right? But if you can find those, I mean, that I think there's some tremendous value there. That and the unfortunate part is I think hobbyists know that and dealers know that, and some of them are a little bit priced, but maybe they're willing to move on them, and that's something that I'm saying is a definite buy for me.
Yeah. And that'll be an interesting thing, I think, as we go on in the next few years, because, all those people had stuff in their closets. They took them out of their closets over the last 2 years, and a lot of that stuff has changed hands. A lot of that stuff that was sealed and somebody threw in their closet and it's been there since 1986 has been opened and graded and all that kind of stuff. So, that kind of creates this issue with supply that we have right now. But it's also going to create kind of this weird thing the next time we go through this again, which we will at some point, because that stuff won't be in the closet anymore, and it won't be there. It's gone. It's been opened. It's been dealt with. And, like you're talking about, where you have these sealed polybags of 84 star, like those just don't exist anymore. And, you and I were talking about, I think we were talking about, I don't know, it was a set that we've just talked about recently that just didn't have that many cases made for it. And it's like, those were opened in the last 2 years. And
we were talking about the Topps finest.
Right. Yeah. The Topps finest baseball. Like, that stuff just doesn't exist in sealed anymore. I mean, you'll see it once in a while, but it's not like you're going to go on eBay and see 30 listings with it. It's just gone.
Yes. And I think one of the things that's a little bit different about this is there were many years of star cards and many different little branded. So there's a lot of Magic Johnson star cards out there from various years, a lot of Larry Bird cards. And so, but there weren't that many Michael Jordan cards. And that's where you can start finding those rarities. But again, even when you see those cards out there, I bet you if you look at the population report, it's still very low from each year to each year in these star cards. And so, definitely something I'm always looking to buy, and something I think is a great investment as you go forward. And, if you find these cards raw and you want to get them authenticated, we've said it on this show before, Beckett's down to $25 for some of their grading. So it doesn't cost nearly as much as it once did to get these cards graded. And if these cards come back a 9.5, you could be, selling them for anywhere between $100 and $200. So there is some value here in potentially flipping some of these cards. Just, again, buyer beware, because there's a lot of reprints and potential counterfeits out there as well with these cards. So that's the one downside. And we mentioned it, but love these cards. Would look at these cards and buy these cards all day if I had all the money in the world. But unfortunately, we'll admire from afar.
Yeah. Ready to put a bow on this one?
Yes, sir. Let's do it.
All right, let's put a bow on this. But before we go, I want to talk about something else. And you had texted me earlier this evening. And I guess we want to talk about things that talk about demand. You can get Prism football cards on Target.com right now.
Yeah, you can buy those
interesting.
Those dual packs with the red, white, and blue. And I'm seeing a lot of posts on social media. People are finding Prism blasters in the wild. And I haven't looked at the secondary market recently. I'm not really feeling football yet. Now, with that said, I did buy 3 packs of those Prism on Target.com today. So, but I haven't opened any Prism. And I think one of the reasons is what I've heard is there are no numbers or autos, I don't believe, in any of the retail. Okay. Is that kind of what I've heard? I might be wrong about that, but I think I thought that's what I read or heard, but I might be wrong. And so there isn't a whole lot in there, but I mean, you can still get silver, you can still get those, parallels, but and then you can get those rookies of those guys, and a lot of people are excited about opening football and excited seeing, Mac Jones cards come out and Justin Fields and Trey Lance and Trevor Lawrence. These are still rookie cards for these guys that are coming out, which is just, it's kind of, mind-boggling considering we just had an NFL draft. We're still putting out rookie cards of guys from last year. So, but there's still some excitement there. There's a lot of buzz. I don't know what this market is going to be for these cards. Yeah, that's the thing that's interesting. And, you and I have talked about this, Chris, too, is, how invested should we be in last year's class?
Yeah, and that's definitely going to have to be a show for us because I think that's a really interesting topic. But, boy, I just think that, it's just getting weird when, you've got this Prism stuff that came out, a four-figure hobby box. The hobby box came out at $1,500, and like you said, maybe you're not going to get those numbered cards, and even if you were going to get them, it wasn't like you were going to find a plethora of them in retail anyway. But the fact that this is just easily purchased right now online is telling us, I think, something about what's happening right now, and that is demand is really dropping. And I gotta be honest with you too, like it's been a month probably since I've bought stuff at retail. And I used to go into Target 2-3 times a week looking for stuff, and over the last 4 or 5 months it's kind of turned into maybe once a week. And now over the last month, if I'm walking through Target, I'll go over and take a look. But if there's isn't something that I haven't opened yet,
no,
I don't buy it.
No,
it's been, I can just see that with my own kind of the way I do things. And, I don't think I'm far and away different than the average person. And I think that it's going to get real different. I remember when we jumped back in here in 2020, in that spring, you could still go to Target and find cards in the clearance rack. We might be getting back there soon.
I think you're spot on. And every time I go to my local Target or Walmart, there's product there, and it's not the crap. I mean, there's Prism product there. I just think there's just a lack of star power in some of it, and then there's just a lack of ability to make money. I think that's the thing that we've seen. And if you go on YouTube and you watch people open these blasters, it is putrid what they're pulling out of these. And, you really struggle to make any kind of money. And then, the idea of what do you do with these cards? I mean, are you taking a base card of some of these players and getting it graded and then flipping it? That's just not in the plan. I think people have wised up to it. And, I think when people were, at the peak of selling and buying, and we're talking about high prices, people were buying those base cards for way, way too much. And, I think that's, kind of the reality is sunk in there. So I don't think people are opening those boxes, pulling out those base rookie cards and getting them graded. It's just, there's no real value. And we've talked about it plenty of times on here. There's no real value to opening many of these blaster boxes anymore. There just is not. And it should be looked at as one thing and one thing only: entertainment. That's what it is. And that's okay too. Mm-hmm. But, as long as you have, the income to be able to do it. And, some of these blaster boxes are $30 now. Some of these mega boxes are $50. It's like, give me that $19.99 and maybe I'll do it. Maybe that's it. And Bowman base or Bowman, Bowman baseball, Bowman football, Bowman U basketball. I mean, those are the ones that are intriguing to me because, those are $19.99 and they have some long-term appeal potentially. So, just an interesting time. And, but the one thing I will say is I ordered some on Target, went on and I ordered some today, went on later to try and order some more just to see if I could. They won't allow you to do it. So you can't just keep filling up your, because they only give you a 3 limit. maximum of 3, and they won't let you do it. So they are restricting the number of packs that you can buy of Prism. Whereas I know previously, even like with Bowman U football, I was able to order. They would give me 3 limit, then I'd go back on, and they'd give me a 3 limit again. So maybe they turn it off and on for some. I don't know how it works.
I think they do. I think that Bowman U stuff, I think it's still on there. They have enough of it. They're not worried. This is kind of a new thing to Target.com. I remember last year buying some product and then trying to log on with my wife's account and buy some more. And I think they were tracking by IP address because I wasn't even able to do that with her.
Right.
Account. So
yeah,
I think they kind of stuff that just comes out or just released, I think, and great. And that's really what they should do. I think that's awesome because it makes sure that it gets spread out and people have an opportunity to buy it. So.
Yeah. And we're, one of the things, this is something we should be, probably discussing if we do more research, but we're just talking about retail here. Now think about the hobby shops,
right,
that are sitting on these boxes that are 10 times the prices we're talking about.
Yeah.
I mean,
you mentioned watching people opening blaster boxes. They'll go watch some hobby boxes, and it's just as bad, and it's a bigger investment. It's not a $35 investment; it's a $12, $13, $14, $1,500 investment. And to watch somebody pull $100 worth of cards out of a box, that's scary. And
it's scary for sure.
The last time I walked into a hobby shop that's close to both of us that carries a lot of wax. You walk up there and they have this wonderful wall of wax, which looks beautiful. And then you look under it and there's all of these cases stacked under there. And I mean, in 2020, we walked in there and there's lots of people in there throwing lots of money around. And you walk in there today and there's 2 kids scratching their head trying to figure out what they're going to buy for $10.
Right.
And it's a different deal. So
it is, yeah, and it's. I think what's going to shift right now. And what's happening is I think you're going to see a lot of people getting back into the trading hobby, and I think that's just you're stuck with product with very few buyers, or not. I don't want to say very few, fewer buyers than you were. So you're probably not going to get what you want. But I think one of the things we've talked about too is this is how much I have invested in this card, and this is how much I have to get for it. If you're going to lose eventually because you're either going to have to hold on to that card or you're going to lose, or whatever the case may be. But what I'm getting at is I think there are fewer buyers, and I think there are still a lot of people still in the hobby, but you're probably going to have to be a trader more than a seller and a buyer.
Yeah, that's going to be tough for dealers who have boxes that, Panini doesn't take a trade on that stuff. They want cash.
They do, and they want their money, don't they?
And that these dealers are going to have to come with cash to pay those bills. So
right,
it's one of those things that in a lot of industries they're having this conversation right now because there was so much cash in the economy a year ago that's not there right now. And there were some players that made some moves last year that were bold, and some of them are going to pan out, but a lot of them are not. And it'll be an interesting next, I think, 6 months.
And I think the hobby is one of those things where a lot of people took some chances, thinking that this would extend beyond maybe when it did. And now they're left kind of holding their you-know-what.
Yep. Well, that's our doom and gloom report for today.
Not a doom and gloom report if you're a buyer. If you're a collector, you're finally getting your world back.
Yeah. If you go in those forums, there are a lot of people that are they couldn't wait for this to happen. So we'll see. And I'm sure, the singles market is going to get really inexpensive. So if you're into buying that kind of stuff, it's going to get real fun for you, I think, in the next 6 months if you've got cash on hand to buy stuff, because prices are going to drop on all that single stuff because people are going to get desperate to sell. So,
and PSA will continue to drop their prices. You heard it here many times.
Yep, I think you're going to have very affordable grading here in the next 6 months. So, well, that's all we got. Wrap us up, sir.
Hopefully you enjoyed your show here on the Card Fellas podcast, video cast. always like to tell you, if you're listening to us on the podcast, go to our YouTube page. We usually do our broadcasts there. We also do some other things there as well, like box openings and reveals and whatnot. So subscribe to that channel. And if you're listening to us or find us on YouTube, go to your podcast platforms and download our podcast there. So we try to be everywhere. We try and listen to what our people, our viewers and listeners are telling us. Give us a review. Give us a comment. We love hearing from our listeners. And let us know what you're thinking, what you see in the hobby. We love to hear that too, when we hear feedback from our listeners about what they're doing in the hobby and what they're seeing. That's the best to us. That's when we know that we got some good listeners, when they interact with us as well. So thank you for everybody for listening, and we'll catch you next time on the Card Fella Show.